A landscaper plans to dig up a rectangular garden for which the length is to be 3 feet less than twice the width. If the landscaper has 66 feet of fencing, what should the dimensions be? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is, I'm talking about a rectangular garden, so I'm just going to go ahead and draw a quick sketch right here of my rectangular garden. And I know I'm working with rectangles, so I'm going to label these length and width. Alright, now on to what we know. In this situation, so my variables are going to be L and W, so if I want to be explicit and label those, let's just say length, I'm just going to call L, or if you want X, that's fine, and width, I'm going to call W. Okay, so that's what I've done for defining my variables. Now my equations, the first one comes right from the first sentence. It says the length is to be 3 feet less than twice the width. So the length is equals 3 feet less than twice the width. So 3 feet less than twice the width. I've got my first equation set up right there. Now the second equation is going to come from the fact that I've got a total of 66 feet to go all the way around the edges of this garden. So that 66 is going to be 2 lengths plus 2 widths to get all 4 sides. That's my total. Okay? I always, in this kind of situation, am looking to get 2 different equations so that I can use substitution or elimination to solve. So let's go down and solve. In this box right here, I'm going to solve. Now, for this particular setup, substitution is going to be perfect because L is already solved for. So I'm going to take right here and plug 2 minus 3W in for L when I solve. Okay? So we've got 2 times, or I don't know what I said, but 2W minus 3 is what I meant to say. Let's see, plus 2W equals 66. Okay, and let's keep going. Let's solve this. So the distributive property says I get 4W minus 6 plus 2W equals 66. Combine the W's, that's 6W minus 6 equals 66. And if I add 6 to both sides, 6W equals 72. So divide both sides by 6, and W equals 12. I think 6 goes into 72 12 times. Okay, so if my W is 12, I'm half done because I want to find my length and my width. Now I know that my length is equal to 2 times my width minus 3. Okay, so my length is, that's 24 minus 3, so 21. So my final answer right here, to interpret my results, I would say that my length is 21. I gotta look back up there for my units real quick, I don't remember them. And my width is 12, and those are both in feet. We're talking about feet in this problem. Okay, so my final answer here. Alright, let's set up another one. Okay, in this next one, we've got a 10,000 seat amphitheater, and it's selling tickets for $22 and $30 for a Sarah McLachlan concert. How many tickets should be sold at each price for a sellout performance that will generate a total revenue of $232,000? Alright, so my variables in this one, I'm looking at 2 different ticket prices, and what I want to know is how many tickets of each price, right? How many tickets should be sold at each price is what I'm trying to find. So I want to know how many $22 tickets we're going to sell. And I want to know how many $30 tickets we're going to sell. Okay. Now, I don't know, so I'm just going to call those like X and Y. Okay. So if those are my X and Y, I do know that I've got it's a sell performance, so I've sold every single ticket, and there were 10,000 possible tickets to sell. So I know that X plus Y has to equal 10,000. Okay, that's my first equation. My next equation is, okay, so I know also that this is how much money we made, and I made $22 for each of the X tickets and $30 for each of the Y tickets. So 22 times X plus 30 times Y is going to give us that total of 232,000. Okay, so that is my setup right here. Now to solve this one, I could again use substitution if I wanted to solve for X or for Y in the top equation. Just like subtract Y off of both sides, see X by itself. I'm going to go ahead and use the addition method though, just for some variety. So I'm going to take my top equation and I'm going to multiply it by, my choices are negative 22 to get rid of the X or negative 30 to get rid of the Y. I'll just pick negative 22. I like to go with a smaller number. Doesn't matter though. Oops. And I'm just making sure I do that on both sides. Okay, so this gives me negative 22x minus 22y equals negative 22 with 4 zeros. Okay. Now my other equation, no change. That was 22x plus 30y equals 232,000. Alright. So the addition method says if I add these up, the x's eliminate in this case because I've got negative 22 and positive 22. The y's, negative 22 plus 30 adds to 8y equals place value. Looks like this will, let's see, place value, this. Okay, so I've got 2 minus 2, 3 minus 2 is 1, 2 minus 0 is 2. I'm just getting my subtraction down right. It looks like I should have 12,000. Divide both sides by 8. And so 8 goes into 12,000. I don't know. I'm not going to try doing it in my head. 1,500 times. Okay. So 1,500. 1,500 is my x value, or my y value. I need to go ahead and find my x value. Now I know that x plus y equals 10,000. So I know that x plus 1,500 equals 10,000. So if I subtract 1,500, I get my x value. Okay, so that gives me 8,500 if I just do that subtraction real quick. Okay, so that tells me that X, that was the number of $22 tickets that sold. So we sold, oops, not money right there. Sorry, I'm thinking about $22. But we sold 8,500 of the $22 tickets. And we sold 1,500 of the $30 tickets. Alright. Okay, so I'm going to look at two more, and we're just going to set those two up, say maybe not solve them, but just a little bit more practice in setting these equations up. And the next one, it's an interest problem. The interest problem is going to work very similar to the last problem. We've got a person, the second equation, well, let's see, a person plans to invest twice as much money in an account that earns 4% as an account that earns 9%. So those are my two accounts. How much money should they invest in each account to earn a total of $578 per year? Okay, so I have two accounts. I should put this first. I got the 4% account, and I've got the 9% account. And we're just going to give each of those a letter. We'll say the 4% gets to be X, the 9% gets to be Y. I'm just defining my variables, so when I use X and Y later, I know what they stand for. So X is going to be the 4% account. Okay. The person plans to invest twice as much money in the 4% account as in the 9% account. So the amount of money in the 4% account is going to be twice the amount of money in the 9% account. Okay, so that's my first equation. The next equation is going to deal with the interest. The 4% account obviously earns 4%, 0.04, plus the 9% account earns 0.09. And if I add those up, it's going to equal the total amount of interest. This is my interest equation, the total amount of interest that we earn. Okay. Now, dealing with decimals when I solve the equations is not my favorite thing. So what I would do is multiply this entire equation right here by 100, just to move my decimal places over twice. Multiply that by 100. It's going to turn this equation into 4x plus 9y equals 57,800. Okay. Now, again, I'm going to stop right here. We're going to solve this one, and probably going to use the substitution method so that I can plug that in for x. It's already got x solved for, so we might as well use substitution. Okay, so I'll stop right there. You could finish that one if you'd like. And let's set up one more. This one's a mixture problem, similar to the mixture of tickets or the mixture of interest. How many quarts of a 14% antifreeze solution and a 26% antifreeze solution must be mixed to make 8 quarts of a 23% antifreeze solution? Okay, so the two things we're mixing, we've got the 14% solution. Don't know how much, so that's going to be one variable. Say X. And we've got the 26% solution we're mixing. And that'll be the other variable, and we'll say Y. Alright. So for my two equations, the first one is based on literally pouring these two amounts into a bucket. When I pour those in, I'm going to have this amount plus this amount equals my total amount, my 8 quarts. Because when I mix them, I literally pour one amount and the other amount together, so I'm adding them up, and they're going to have to be that 8 quarts that I need to make. Okay, so that's my total equation. Now for my mixture equation, 14%, so 0.14 times x plus 0.26 times y. Now in both of these, it's the percent times the amount. The percent times the amount. So that's going to equal the percent I want to get, 0.23, times the amount I want to get, which is 8. So if I rewrite this equation, I could write that as, let's first of all figure out what 0.23 times 8 is. 1.84. And when I go to my next step to use both of those equations, I'm going to say the first one is x plus y equals 8. And for the second one, I'm going to multiply that one by 100 again, just so I don't have to use the decimals. So we're going to call this one 14x plus 26y equals 184. Multiplying by 100, 100, and 100. Okay. Now here, it's probably going to be pretty good to use elimination. Maybe say multiply all of these by a negative 14 or negative 26, depending which variable you choose to get rid of. But it would also work if I first solve for x or for y and use substitution. Okay, so I think the question was mostly, how do I get these set up? So this one's set up, and you could go ahead and finish it by solving.